The Silver Age of comic books was weird. Like, really, really weird. But did you know that Supergirl once dated a freaking horse? Well, she did. Because comics. Hello and welcome to Because Comics, the show where we take a look at all the crazy, weird, and straight up bizarre things that make comic books. I'm your host, Drake McWhorter. Comet the Super-Horse is one of several members of the Legion of Super Pets, the only noteworthy remainder of which these days being Crypto the Superdog. But who is Comet, and how could he possibly date Supergirl? Well, for that, let's bring in some history. Okay, so after seeing a Western with her foster parents, Linda Danvers, aka the Earth 1 Supergirl back in the Silver Age, started dreaming about encountering a solid white stallion with super strength and the ability to fly. This horse also had a shooting star birthmark, which is why Linda named this super horse Comet. So, no big deal, we all have weird dreams sometimes, and this is all relatively harmless, despite this, strange pose and expression that Linda wakes up in. Well, Linda keeps on having dream after dream about Comet. In fact, these thoughts kept on consuming her brain to the point of daydreams. So when given the opportunity to visit a ranch while on vacation, well, Linda jumped at it. This was the Supergirl Dude Ranch, which was named after her when Supergirl once rescued the owner's livestock during a flood. And it was here that Linda encountered none other than Comet, the super horse of her dreams, right down to the shooting star mark. This stallion was wild and could not be tamed by any of the ranch hands. But as soon as Linda approached, he calmed down instantly. Well, Linda and Comet went for several rides, where it's revealed that the horse has telepathy. Oh, and he's also not actually a horse, but rather a centaur. You see, in ancient Greece, Comet was a centaur named Byron, who fell in love with Circe, a sorceress who would go on to become one of Wonder Woman's greatest villains. Well, Byron managed to save Circe from being killed by a dark wizard, and in return, she promised to turn him into a human being. Circe brewed two potions, one that would turn Byron into a full man, and one that would turn him into a full horse, for some reason. Anyway, the potions got mixed up, and Byron fully transformed into a horse. Of course. To make up for this, Circe gave this new horsey Byron a second elixir that granted him the might of Jove, the speed of Mercury, the wisdom of Athena, the telepathic powers of Neptune, and the immortality of all of them, which I guess makes him kind of like a horse version of Shazam. What would that be? J-Man? Whatever. If all of that wasn't already enough, though, do you remember that dark wizard that tried to kill Circe? Well, he got revenge on Byron by banishing him to an asteroid inside of the constellation Sagittarius. And after centuries of just hanging around, Byron was freed when his prison was hit by Supergirl's rocket as she was being sent to Earth. As a way of saying thanks, Byron flew to Earth as well to assist Linda as she took on the role of Supergirl, and was actually the one putting the dreams in her head with his telepathic powers, which made this meeting possible in the first place. So with all of that backstory out of the way, Byron began his career as Comet the Super-Horse, and helped Supergirl fight off an alien invasion, and since then he'd help out on adventures from time to time. One of these was when Comet helped a magic space wizard prince keep his throne, and in return, the prince cast a spell on Comet that would turn him into a human, albeit temporarily. From then on, every time that a comet passes by Earth, Comet would turn into a human but lose his powers. When in this human form, Comet took up the name Bronco Bill Starr, whom Supergirl quickly fell in love with. And I'm talking the kind of head over heels, carving names in trees, and predicting marriage kind of love. Needless to say, they've made out. Several times. Oh, and if that wasn't enough, Comet also once made out with Lois Lane while in human form. So yeah, Comet the freaking Super-Horse could have almost made Supergirl and Lois Lane Eskimo sisters, which is almost as weird as the several scenarios of Superman either kissing or marrying Supergirl in multiple continuities. But I feel like that's another video for another day. Now, it's worth noting that Comet's human form was almost never seen after this, and also this universe kind of doesn't exist anymore. See, all of these stories took place on Earth 1, which was destroyed in the famous event Crisis on Infinite Earths, and it also served as a basis for New Earth, which is the main DC Comics continuity until the 2011 Flashpoint event. This New Earth didn't have a Comet, Byron, and or a Bronco Bill star, at least not in the way you'd expect. Oh, there's a Comet alright, but they're somehow even more complicated and a lot more 90s. So there was once a jockey named Andrew Jones that fell and was trampled by horses during a race. He was carted off and experimented on, which led to him being genetically spliced with a horse, turning him not into a centaur, but rather a man-horse thing. When escaping, Andrew stole a suit of armor that allowed him to fly, and managed to save the life of a suicidal risk-taker named Andrea Martinez. After saving Andrea's life, Andrew's genetically engineered body began to break down, and actually fused with Andrea. So now their two minds were melded together, and they could change between both forms. This new person took up the name Andy Jones and became a stand-up comedian, but it also turns out they're an angel of love. Yeah, there was a period when Supergirl was a quote-unquote Earth-born angel, and there were a lot of shenanigans involving that, but again, that might need to be saved for another episode. So, how's this for a love triangle? Comet fell in love with Supergirl, who at this time is a new version of Linda Danvers, but Linda was only interested in Comet's man-horse form, and not their usual female Andy Jones form. That's all fine and dandy, until Comet is kidnapped and tortured by another angel named Blythe, and after close to 10 issues of not being seen, Supergirl finally rescues Comet, where it's revealed that they are a centaur with angel wings made out of ice now, like a freaking Yu-Gi-Oh monster. You see, after being tortured by Blythe, Comet began to see things her way and fell in love with her, kind of like Stockholm Syndrome. The issue lies in the fact that Blythe was working for, I kid you not, the first vampire of the world who was trying to take control of Heaven from the Presence, who is the god of the DC Comics multiverse. Eventually though, Blythe and Comet do see the light, help Supergirl take down the vampire, save Heaven, and pretty much vanished entirely from comics, outside of like a couple of brief cameos and team-ups. It's pretty anticlimactic, I know. As far as I know, there hasn't been a Comet or any incarnation of him in the modern post-Flashpoint era of DC Comics, and that honestly might not be a bad thing. Not everything needs to make a comeback, and sometimes some of the crazy stuff that happened in the past, well, should probably just stay in the past. But if you like this video, then why not consider subscribing, or even watching another episode of Because Comics? This is the first one I've done in quite a while, so the older episodes have me with green hair. It's, yeah. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video, and maybe I'll see you next time.